832, what's going on? Welcome to the program.
Hi, John. Great to be on the program. Short-time listener, first-time caller. Man, first I want to start by how much I love the show. I've only been watching to get reconnaissance against Notre Dame, and watching the show has given me tremendous insight in check the pulse of the fan base and see how things are going over there. So I love the show. I plan on continuing to watching even after this game, first and foremost.
Oh man, I appreciate it. First off, I appreciate it, man. It's always healthy to get a different mix in here. I wouldn't really like it if it was all Notre Dame all the time like that. That's not a healthy environment. Like, because you're in this think tank where everybody kind of is on the same side. Like, I like trying to mix it up. And I have no overlap with you guys or most of the SEC. Like, the most overlap I have with the SEC is arguing with LSU people because of the Kelly connection. Like I just don't have a lot of overlap. So it's really, this is a healthy dynamic, and I'm open to anywhere you want to take this.
Yeah, I want to start with three things. First, I'll talk about the environment of the game. I know Notre Dame is used to playing in hostile environments, so I'm sure that's not going to be anything too crazy. But I guess my biggest concern is with y'all's young offensive line that's lacking experience, how they're going to respond specifically, since this would be most of their first times in a hostile environment like this. Also, in College Station, it gets very hot and humid. It'll be well into the upper 90s during that game. And it'll be nighttime, so it'll be cooling off, but it will be very hot, very raucous. The energy in College Station is through the roof with the new regime of Elko. As everyone knows, he was a former D coordinator there, and a lot of folks wanted him to be hired after Jimbo. So, yeah, it's very invigorated fan base. Everyone is so excited. Myself, I am tremendously anxious. I feel like both sides of this are very, very anxious going into it because we both know each other's potential. So just very excited about the environment, very excited to see how Notre Dame responds to it, especially that offensive line. It gets very loud, obviously, when their offense is going to be on the field. So, yeah, I expect a bunch of false starts on that note. Reasons for A&M optimism. Obviously, the defense, everyone keeps talking about the D-line, which is great. You got Shamar Stewart, you got Shamar Turner, you got Nick Scorton. And in the middle, you have Albert Regis and DJ Hicks. So they have tremendous depth on the defensive line, much like what I'm hearing about Notre Dame's defensive line. So that goes without saying. So I think it's going to be a battle. It really depends on how that left tackle holds up going against Nick Scorton the whole time. But excited to see how that plays out. I think a lot of people are not speaking enough about the A&M secondary upgrades. Mike Elko, as soon as he got in, completely scrapped the old secondary, retained the good pieces, but brought in guys that he has scouted and thought that would make big impacts. So I'm really expecting the secondary to have a big impact. We got Desrick coming from Alabama transfer. We have Will Lee from Kansas State. He's the blanket, they call him. So I feel I'm really safety. We have good safeties as well, good nickel as well. So defense, I feel much better about the A&M defense this year than I did last year. And they didn't have too bad of a defense in years past. The secondary was horrible in years past, but I expect a big improvement there.
Is there anything defensively that causes you any anxiety? Like, is there any level or part of that defense where you're like, I don't trust this, or I don't think we have the depth there? Like, what would that be? Because I think we're entering this with a lot of a certain baseline level of respect for the defensive front. But is there anything that gives you a little anxiety?
Yes, the linebacker. Torian York is returning. He was a true freshman last year. He's going to be the primary play caller. He's the heart and soul of the defense. He's great. He is undersized, but he will be in the right place at the right time. I'm concerned about your tight ends. You guys have huge tight ends, and at that linebacker spot, while we have Torian York secured, we're not sure. We have question marks about the next linebacker. We have good options, but until it's proven in the game, it's kind of a question mark. So I'm really concerned about the linebacker matches up on the tight ends for you guys.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm concerned about our tight ends because I want to make sure Evans is fully healthy. You know, he's been kind of in practice, but not taking a lot of hits after recovering from his ACL. And Eli Raridan is like 6'7" and a monster. So those should be mismatches for Notre Dame and down in distance or red zone situations. Can I flip this over? Really good caller, by the way. Thanks for giving us this insight. If we flip this over to the offensive side of the ball, that's where I'm really, really intrigued here both ways with Notre Dame and you guys. Okay, so
Yeah, that's where my biggest anxiety is with A&M with the offensive line. The offensive line is not going to be as bad as people are expecting. They're returning a bunch of starters and people with experience, and there is depth there. There's competition still going on for that right guard and left right guard spot, and I think left guard as well. It's kind of up in the air, but I think they have the size, but can they pull it together? With Jimbo last year, I'm not sure. I don't think he ran things the right way. I think Colin Klein is going to put the players in a position to do well, but that's my biggest question mark. And also the receivers I mentioned in the chat. We have good receivers. I think Noah Thomas will be our X factor. Everyone's relying on him. He's a big 6'6" guy, has huge range, huge catch radius. But you guys have lockdown corners. So we also have Moose Muhammad, like someone had mentioned. We have Micah Tease. But yeah, I think receiver is going to be another factor that I'm concerned about. As well as running back, we lost.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I got a couple things on offense I want to hit specifically. What does this do with that running back injury? Was he going to be? I was having trouble figuring out. Was he going to be like 1A in a rotation? He was going to be heavily involved, but it didn't seem like he was the absolute go-to back. Like, what was that going to be a shared number one role he was a part of, and where do you go next?
Precisely, yeah. It was going to be a share number one role with, I think it was Amari Daniels, Ruben Owens, and the other guy escapes me at the moment. But yeah, it was 1A, 1B role. I don't think he was going to be the starter, Ruben Owens, but I think he was going to be heavily involved. They had a nice tandem last year with the running back spot. But we're still in a good spot. We still have Amari Daniels. We still have EJ Smith, Emmitt Smith's son, transferring from Stanford, who can carry the ball. He's really good at catching the pass out of the backfield. So I don't think we're taking a big step back. I'm only concerned about depth going forward, but I think we'll be covered as far as fresh legs goes in the first game.
Okay. And then what about Connor Wegman? Okay. Like a 5-star guy out of high school. Then he had the injury, like kind of out of sight, out of mind, now recovering, coming back. What do A&M people feel about him? Do they expect him to hit the ground running and off we go? Or will there be like a little lag period for him to get back into the mix? Like, what are the thoughts on Connor?
Connor did play in the spring coming off a foot injury against Miami, I believe it was. So he wasn't 100% during the spring, but it was important to get Elko wanted him to practice in order to get some reps, learn the new offense. And I think it made a big impact on the team overall. Expectations are high. A lot of people are thinking he could be a top SEC quarterback. He could potentially be a Heisman quarterback if the offensive line holds up. If you watched the tape last year on offensive line, it was horrible. They were just letting guys come through all the time. And even with that being the case, Connor still delivered the ball. He got the ball out quick. From what I hear in training camp, he's spot on. He's just an all-around good quarterback. People always say, I keep hearing that he's injury prone, but he's only had the one injury. He came in as a true freshman and played the last 4 games. And then the next season played 4 games before getting injured. So he only has 8 games on tape, but those were good 8 games considering the circumstances he was playing in. So
yeah,
the issue with both sides is you can't replicate game speed in the game environment. And just seeing how both teams respond in those environments, especially the offense. I feel good about the defense on both sides. They're both going to bring their lunch pail. It's going to be a very, very defensive heavy game. I'm really interested to see what the turnover margin will be. I think it's the offenses on both sides, in particular the offensive lines, that'll be the biggest factor between these two teams.
Don't forget to check out the merchandise. The link is in the description. You can browse and carouse all the different Always Irish gear. Make sure you head over there and get something for the next tailgate. Thanks for being here. Now, let me ask this. You know, we're talking about the offensive side of it. And so you feel like the offensive line may be a little more sturdy than maybe what's out there in the ether or the common thinking. Let me ask this. What about Colin Klein coming in here, making tweaks to this offense? What do you expect to be different? And do you expect there to be a run up for them to install all this and get comfortable with the new system and everything, get up to speed with whatever Colin Klein's trying to run? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that's what concerns me. I believe in the long term, A&M will be fine. From what I hear based on camp, he does bring a lot of plays in that the players really had to take some time to learn, and they struggled with a little bit against this defense during training camp and in the summer. But I feel good, but that first game is critical. I think his strengths are adapting to what he has. I think Jimbo liked to do it one way and was going to be that way regardless of the matchup. Whereas from watching Colin Klein, I think he's more adaptable and he'll take whatever the defense is giving him. And along with Mike Elko, I think they specialize in adapting week to week with whoever they're playing to their strengths and their opponent's weaknesses.
Yeah.
The issue is I don't think Notre Dame doesn't have a lot of weaknesses right now. So I expect him to have a nice blend. I'm hoping we focus on the run, and then do passes. But we'll see. It's gonna go down by down.
Yeah, and a couple more things from you. I really appreciate your time here, willingness to jump in the Notre Dame's area here. What about overall? We have our little Always Irish bingo sheet, and on it all summer was Marcus Freeman is year 3, game 1, and Elko's year 1, game 1. What about the operation overall? What is the anxiety of like, will this? We all believe in Mike Elko, and he was at Notre Dame. We respect Mike Elko. Really great guy too, by the way. We totally respect him on and off the field. But the question seems to be, is it too much to expect week 1, game 1, that he has this put together enough to beat a solid Notre Dame team? What are the thoughts about that overall, getting all this ramped up?
My feeling from the A&M perspective is we're playing with house money. It's year 1. I don't think the fans are expecting. I think we'd be happy with the 8-4, 9-3. So we're not expecting to not necessarily lose the game, but if we lose and make it close, A&M would be satisfied.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of like a loser mentality, but we have realistic expectations.
I get what you're saying. And if you get this one and you win it, then you feel like you're way ahead of schedule. Is it that, you did a feather and then you're like, okay, now we're starting way further ahead from where we thought we were, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. The pressure is definitely on Marcus Freeman to deliver.
Yeah.
And then coming into a hostile environment.
I totally agree with you.
I mean, you know better than anyone, but goodness gracious, I couldn't imagine that job.
Dude, it's year 3. His first game, his first year at Notre Dame was at Ohio State where he played. You want to talk about like the first game pressure. But like you said, everybody kind of understood the circumstances, and I don't think there were the expectations. Now you're in year 3, game 1, and it's a lot different for Marcus. I got 2 more things I'm going to ask you, and we'll let you go on with your day. Number 1 is, it's very, very interesting the way people around the country perceive Notre Dame. They're not a full-time conference member. It's kind of hard to judge them year in, year out, sometimes from the outside. What are the majority of the fans and the local media beat guys, how are they talking about the Notre Dame matchup? Is it like little old Notre Dame, they don't have the talent, Northern team, haven't won anything since the 80s, whatever? Or is it, hey man, you better take this serious, they're bringing a good defense in here? What is the main thought lines from the fan and the media about Notre Dame?
From the A&M and SEC's perspective, I think Notre Dame is always considered dangerous because they don't have a week in, week out tough schedule. When you are in the SEC and each week is a battle, Arkansas can beat you, South Carolina can beat you, Mississippi State can beat you, Missouri can beat you. You're always looking to that next week. You're knowing it's going to be a grind, whereas Notre Dame doesn't usually have that same pressure week in and week out. So they're dangerous because they can focus more getting ready for the big games that they do have versus having to anticipate a battle each week throughout. So they're respectable for sure, and they're well coached. It's a blue blood program. I'm going to go to South Bend and watch the game next year when it's played in Notre Dame, so I'm very excited about that. But with the strength of schedule, I feel like they don't get respect because they only have to prove it 2 or 3 times a year in the big games.
That's okay. Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. And then I got to end with this. Man. Listen, we're the Catholic school. We get a lot of this, to recruits, negatively recruiting. If you're interested in Notre Dame, they're going to turn you into a priest and they're going to make you go to church and do all that. We get accused of all this cult-like stuff. Can you make me feel better about those white overall wearing male cheerleaders? What the hell's the deal? What's the deal with these weirdos? You got to make me feel better about them. Explain to me the deal. What is the deal? It's creepy.
Yeah, A&M is definitely the top of the cult when it comes to overall fan bases.
What is
the
the
yellow
deal,
leaders and the white
man?
uniforms.
What is the
But
deal?
they serve a very strategic purpose.
What is it? To
very
be
strategic
creeps?
purpose.
Is it recruiting?
Everyone's bought in.
Is it recruiting? That's the purpose. Recruiting other members to the cult is a very important purpose. Dude.
Yeah, they serve a purpose. And yeah, everyone drinks the Kool-Aid upon their freshman year, and you just accept it and let it wash over you.
Oh man, it seems like it, but I'm having so much fun with it because usually we're the ones that get that reputation being like the Catholic school, right? With like the religious undertones and the spirituality being a part of it. But within this dynamic, all of those cheers are just kind of awkward and weird, man. Do you understand from the outside how we're like, what is that?
Absolutely. But A&M, they embrace it. Aggies embrace it. They love it. That's their strength. The networking with the university, the cult-like thing. It really is a silent factor that a lot of people they laugh at, but it does have its advantages.
Yeah,
sure.
and I get it with it, and it's tradition. And if you're a part of it, you're a part of it. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're not, you're never going to understand it. Notre Dame's like that in a lot of ways too. But I had to give you a hard time about it just because it's so cringy from the outside. Some of what you see on social media or whatever, and it's just entertaining. I had to bring it up. I couldn't let you go without it. Anything else you want to mention or cover, man? I really do appreciate this a lot. You calling in. You're being very, very fair and balanced about things, not trolling or anything. Like, this was a really, really productive call, man. Like, I genuinely appreciate getting the outside perspective. I'll give you any time left that you want to finish with. Anything. You got a prediction or, any final thoughts? Whatever you want to do, man.
Absolutely. Like I mentioned earlier, I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I think everything's going to hinge on the offensive line. I think we're not talking enough about the special teams. You kind of got my heart racing with your punter. You say he has a weird spin on the ball, and it could potentially be a problem with the receivers back there catching it. We have a true freshman, Terry Bussey, 5-star guy. He's a dog. He'll play on both sides of the ball, but they're expecting him to be the punt returner this season. And I'm a little nervous about putting the trust in a true freshman in his first game against a punter that has a weird spin on the ball. I'm concerned about a fake punt. I think they're going to throw the kitchen sink at this game. Notre Dame will.
Do you realize
to make sure they eke out with the win?
Do you realize that punter's size for Notre Dame? The story with that, we went to Australia and pulled him out of the professional Australian rugby league, and he's like 6'5", 240, I guess, and he kicks the ball like 55 yards with a knuckle. I don't know, man. I don't know what to expect either. It's weird.
Yeah, the Aussies are built differently there. But, yeah, I think it's going to come to special teams. Game prediction, I'm thinking of 23-17. Which team wins, I really can't call it. I would like A&M to win, obviously, but I do think it's going to be a low-scoring affair.
Yep.
And all eyes will be on Kyle Field August 31st.
Yeah, man, this is going to be what an exciting way to start the year. And again, I really, really appreciate you. Now I'm getting called always Aggies here in the chat for being too nice to the opponent, but I really do appreciate you giving me a call, man. And feel free to touch base again next week if you want to call in when the game gets shorter. I would love to put you on again, man. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good one. What a nice guy. Like, I can't even be mad at that guy. Can't get enough unfiltered Notre Dame football talk? Be sure to go over to patreon.com/alwaysirish. Former captain Mike Goolsby and myself. Do that. Screw it.
Oh, we never won anything. It's been 30 years.